All right, Eric Smith here, teacher at Provo City School District. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about disinfecting your instrument. There's a few materials you can use to help prevent any spread of disease, but you have to be careful. And there's a few things you might need. You'd want to get some paper towels, a little bit of water, some rubbing alcohol, and maybe some violin polish. So let's talk about this here for just a little bit. First, with a paper towel, if you are going to rub down your instrument with a little bit of water, I need first to make sure that you know you don't want a wet paper towel. You'd want it to be a little bit damp. So if it's wet and it's soaking, that's not going to be good for your instrument. Your instrument is made out of wood, and it is got a lacquer on here, and it is really delicate. If you have just a dry cloth that came with your instrument, you can use that to wipe off any dirt, any dust or rosin dust that's on your instrument. And especially around where your strings are, you'd want to take care of that. If you have this wet portion of your paper towel, you can use that to help wipe off dirt off the face of the instrument. And now that doesn't disinfect your instrument. With the virus scares that are going around, it's not necessarily helpful. But you don't really need to disinfect your instrument unless you get sick. If you do get sick and you're worried about cleaning your instrument, there's a few things you can do. First, you can quarantine your instrument. We know that the virus doesn't live on a surface more than 3 days. So if you don't touch your instrument for 3 days, you're probably gonna be fine. Now, if you're not sick, don't avoid touching your instrument for 3 days. You should be practicing on this thing, right? So next, if you do need to disinfect your instrument, you can use a little bit of rubbing alcohol, but only in a few spots on your instrument. The lacquer on your instrument will come off if you get rubbing alcohol on any part of the instrument that is in the body or on the neck or the scroll here. So any part that might be brown or wood colored, or if you have like a painted instrument, the alcohol will take this off. So you don't want to get it anywhere on the instrument. So I have a little bit of alcohol here. Again, we want our paper towel to be just damp. It does not need to be dripping wet. That's too much. Being very careful. This would be something for parents to do, not for students. If you need to, you can take a little bit of this rubbing alcohol and wipe off the strings, being careful not to get it on the body of the instrument. You can wipe off a little bit on the fingerboard here, the chin rest here, the pegs. Most of my students, we have not been tuning our instruments. They might want to just leave those alone. If you want to disinfect them, it's fine, but be careful. If they slip, your instrument's out of tune, what can you do? Please avoid this part of the instrument. This is still lacquered, and so we want to avoid any alcohol getting on that. So let's talk about the bow. With the hair on the bow, don't put anything on there except rosin. It's not going to help. Plus, we tend not to touch the bow hairs. If you've been touching your bow hairs, don't. But more importantly, don't put like rubbing alcohol or anything on here to try to clean it. Just leave it be. If you're worried about the rest of the bow, take like a soft cloth. You can use a paper towel. Soft cloth works better. You can wipe it down, especially under the hair where a lot of rosin dust is going to collect. If you're worried about disinfecting the bow itself, the best option would be kind of quarantining your instrument. Don't touch it for a few days if you get sick. If you're not sick and you're still worried, well, you can always take just a little tiny bit of rubbing alcohol. The problem is, if you have a nice wood bow, if you have a bow that's painted, it's gonna take off this stuff. It's gonna make it look terrible. But in general, I would say just leave it be. Again, if you need to disinfect, just a little tiny bit of that rubbing alcohol. Now, you only hold the bow here, right? So you could really just do a real quick wipe down, and that's it. But be careful, and we're definitely not dousing our bow. Last thing, violin polish is usually a combination of a few different chemicals, including polish and a cleaner. And so if you need to clean the body of the instrument, you can use a little bit of violin polish. You don't need very much of this. Your paper towel can be damp, but it shouldn't be wet or dripping with it. You can get this at any music store. You can get it online if you don't want to leave your house. It doesn't have to be this brand. There's lots of different types that are out there. But just find a violin polish, and not guitar polish, not any other furniture polish. That stuff is designed for furniture that's been sealed rather than just lacquered. So go for an actual violin polish. You got a little bit on your paper towel here, and you can wipe it around, get it nice and clean. When you've moved it around, when you've gotten it on your instrument, take a dry cloth. You can use the other part of the paper towel. You can use a soft cleaning cloth. A lot of instruments have those in their cases, and you can wipe off any residue that's on there. And that should help keep your instrument nice and clean. Thanks again. Keep playing your instruments. There's no reason to just sit there and do nothing, right? So I hope you have some good times. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you next time.